The Denver Broncos won back-to-back Super Bowls, and it began right here. 1998, nearing the end of the third quarter, 17-17 versus the Packers, and John Elway made one of the greatest Super Bowl runs in history. And their biggest fan joins us next.
3rd and 6, Elway, shotgun. Almost offside, but the Packers got back on. Elway, scrambling, looking, running. Diving inside the 5-yard line for a first down. Is he only 37? How important is this football game? How bad does John Elway want to win this football game?
It's going to be raining touchdowns.
Picked the wrong one to come to. Before the team even started stretching drills, security cleared the area due to some lightning, so they barely got to see anything. However, we did get to talk to one fan who doesn't sound all that discouraged.
A lot of people are heading out, unfortunately, a lot of disappointed faces, but you know what? We got plenty of reason for optimism. We got Peyton Manning this year. So it may be raining today, but it's going to be raining touchdowns this season.
All right, and our next guest, he's from afar, and we'll let him tell you his story and where he's from. His name is Mitch. Mitch, are you there?
Yes, I am. I am here.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. So, Mitch, tell everyone, your story and what exactly you do, and which brought you on the show today.
Okay, so what brought me on the show was I grabbed your interest because I've recently completed a few marathons. From my understanding, it's a growing sport up there in the Winnipeg area, and I'm on here to basically tell you a little bit about how I got into running, how I completed a marathon and what goals and what work went into it. So I guess first I'll start. I've always been a runner. I ran back in middle school competitively, high school. And growing up a marathon, I remember watching them on TV, like the New York City Marathon, because I'm originally from the New York metro area. I remember watching it and say, boy, I want to do that one day. But, training for high school and college athletics, I never had time to do it. And I was getting close to 30, and I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. It's time to complete a marathon. So did my first one a few years ago. I did Philadelphia. My backup plan was to try to qualify for Boston. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. But I originally said I was only going to do one marathon, and after I finished, it just left me hungry to do more. So after running the Philadelphia Marathon 3 years ago, I came back last year, and I did New York. That was my hometown marathon, so I was really excited to do it. But I didn't have a good race. My goal was to break 3 hours. I went out. My first half was on pace to break the 3 hours. I'd put a lot of hard training in. And it just wasn't my day, and I didn't even Boston qualify. It totally fell apart. So I knew I needed to change the way I trained a little bit. Now let me give you a little bit of advice for marathon training. Mileage is really important. A lot of people try to do it on 40, even less miles per week. But you got to remember, the race is 26.2 miles, or I don't know what the conversion is in kilometers for my neighbors up north, but you might know 26.2 miles. I think it's like 42 kilometers.
We got our intern working on that right now as we speak.
I think it's like 42 point something kilometers. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, I think you have to put the mileage in. You have to put the hard work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with running a marathon if your goal is just to finish. It's going to be a little bit painful if you don't put in the work. So basically what I did was when I ran I ran 3:09 last year in New York, and any of you familiar with Boston qualifying knows at my age you need to break 3:05. So I missed by a few minutes, but I really wanted my time to start with a 2 in front of it. So what I did is I went from running 50 to 60 miles a week. I upped it to more like 60 to over 70 miles per week this training cycle. I incorporated, I think this is like really one of the keys to running a strong marathon where you can finish pretty strong, is I did midweek workouts where all you familiar with marathon training know during the weekends you do your long run. You go all the way up to 20 or sometimes 22, 23 miles. You never go the full 26.2. What I did is I was doing a lot of midweek runs in addition to that, around 13 to 14, sometimes 15 miles. For the last 10, I would do it my marathon goal pace. I really think that workout made the difference. So basically, I did Philly again this year with the goal of breaking 3 again. And this time, I successfully ran in 2:57, which is, I think, what caught your attention. and I got that Boston qualifier. So I will be up in Boston in 2016. For those of you who want to try to qualify and join me, you have till September, qualify for 2016. I think another key is people tend to go out too fast. It's really easy to go out fast in a marathon. Your first few miles are going to feel, with all the adrenaline running through you, it's going to feel like a piece of cake. But in a 5K, maybe you can get away with that. But in a full marathon, you really can't get away with going out fast. In fact, if you feel at all tired, if you don't feel like you're going out too slow in the first 13 miles, you're probably going to be in trouble in the second half. So one of the things I did is I went out slower. My first half was an hour and 29 minutes. My second half was an hour and 28 minutes. It's called the negative split. I think if you really want to run your optimal time in a marathon, I think one thing you need to do is you need to have that discipline. And trust me, when you're passing people later in the race, you'll be thanking me. So I think those are the few things. I think it's great. It gives you goals. It's not only about that race. You do so many runs for that race. I think part of it's about the journey to get to the race, the ups and downs, all the training runs, especially if you do them with your friends, like the weekend runs. It's not easy waking up early on a Saturday or Sunday morning. But you got to have that kind of discipline because you can't get away without training. There's no easy way to train for a marathon if you want to get a good time. You have to put in the work. Yeah. And, it was worth it. Honestly, it was worth it. Now, for anyone that's looking to up the mileage, I will give you a caveat. Don't increase your mileage by more than 10% from one week to the next. So, for example, if you ran 40 miles this week, don't do more than 40 for the next week. That's just a rule of thumb that helps you avoid injury. Another thing is weight loss is actually really important. Now, I don't want anyone to go anorexic to run a marathon, but if you want to run your best marathon time, each pound you lose, obviously, once you get below a healthy weight, that doesn't apply. But each pound you lose is worth almost a minute in your time, believe it or not. It's about 2 seconds per mile. There's a rule of thumb for weight loss. So, you can take off 10 pounds. I think most people can. You can take almost 10 minutes off just by eating a healthy diet and minimizing your weight. So there's a lot of things you can do. And, maybe one day we could have a thing where someone asks me some, maybe some of your viewers could ask some questions and I could answer them. But I'm trying to give my best overview I can. And so is that pretty good?
Yeah, it's very good.
The marathon front?
I got tons of questions for you. And Julio has a lot of questions lined up for you.
Okay.
I'll just want to ask one question. Can you just explain the whole qualifying thing? I know you got into a little bit of it,
okay.
but just like, is it different if you're from your part of town? Let's say if you're from like California, like what would an average person? For me, I've never ran before. I never ran in a marathon.
It doesn't matter where you're from. What matters is your age and your sex. So if you are like a male that's under 35 years old, and it's 35 on the day of the race, so basically, I was 34 at the time I ran the marathon. I'm going to be 35 at the time I qualified for Boston. So I actually got moved up into the next age group. But there's basically a chart you can go to. You can go to the Boston Marathon page, and they have a scale. For example, males under 35, the time is 3:05. So if you go under 3:05, you have a Boston qualifier. For females, it's 3:35 for under 35. But one caveat with that as well, there's been so much demand to run Boston that you could actually hit a qualifying time and not get in. I don't know how much longer that's going to go on. It's happened ever since the bombing a few years ago, where it's become even a more important event. Last year, I think the cutoff was 1 minute and 4 seconds. So if you got a minute and 4 seconds faster than minimum qualifying time, you were unfortunately out of luck. So that's another thing. If you're real hard to set on running Boston, you probably want to give yourself a few minutes leeway. So if you go onto their website and see the times, try to break it by at least like 3 or 4 minutes, so you're not sweating it out when it comes September and they're saying where the cutoff is. So I'm not sweating it out because my 2:57 was almost 13 minutes behind underneath the 3:10 I needed in my age group. So I know I'll be, as long as I'm able to run, I'll be running Boston in 2016.
All right, our intern Kulu's got some questions for you, Mitch.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi. I was just actually I just looked this up quickly when you were just chit-chat. 24 miles is 38 kilometers, so Seems like a lot for us.
That's
but
like from here to where I live, and there's no way in heck I would run it, walk it, or even bike it.
Well, I mean, it's not everyone's made to do a marathon. If you don't really want it, I would suggest not to do it. Now, a marathon's 26.2. I know you said 24, so my guess at 42 is looking pretty good for kilometers.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I think it's 42.3. I honestly haven't looked it up. I've been talking to you guys on the phone, but I just I'm guessing it's like 42.3 or something. But I'm sure if you won't won't walk or 38, I'm pretty sure you won't do the 42. Maybe you'll drive it. You could say you drove a marathon.
I was just a couple of questions. Actually, when you're trying to lose that weight, what kind of diet are you sustaining? Just out of curiosity, what kind of diet? Do you drink lots of water? Do you...
Okay, yes. I do drink lots of water. You want to be careful with the liquid calories. I was drinking like low-calorie Gatorade mostly instead of the regular calories because weight loss really, we make a big deal of it, but what weight loss really is for every 3,500 calories you burn as opposed to consuming, it's like a bank account. Every time you burn 3,500 more calories than you consume, just to simplify it, of course, it's variables, you lose a pound. So, when you're training for a marathon, you're running more mileage, so you're burning the calories. But you're also hungrier, so you got to manage it. And what I would say is moderation. I do eat some unhealthy food sometimes, and I think you have to almost, or you're going to binge at some point. I think the key is when you eat those unhealthy foods, you have small portions of. I really think that's one of the keys to losing a lot of weight. Another thing is you don't want to eat the last 2 or 3 hours you're awake. It's almost like those calories are almost costing you double, I think, because you don't have time to digest them.
Well, yeah, they just sit there in your stomach.
Maybe your viewers, if they really want to lose the weight while training for the marathon, one trick.
You're saying you qualified for this one or the next year's, the 2016?
Next year's 2016. Basically, the way it works is every September is the cutoff. So my marathon, the Philadelphia one, was around in November. So it was after the cutoff for 2015. Because at some point they have to close registration so the people that qualified could plan to go to the race. So the annual cutoff September. So for people that want to run on the 2016 Boston Marathon and qualify, you have until September. I don't know the exact date. So you have to do a spring or summer marathon in order to get into this year's Boston.
Hey,
I mean, not this year's. I meant 2016. But
all right. So you're going to be participating in the marathon that's just a little bit down the road. So
exactly.
I
have no marathons in my plan this year.
I was just going to ask you, are you going to be nervous now? Are you going to be in training that you're just going to be focusing on that? It's a big day. It's a big day for you. So
no.
You're not going to run another marathon?
I get really nervous before these races. I think one of the reasons I've been running a lot better in the last few years, because I really have had some breakthroughs, is, you got to remember, when you show up to the line, the world's not going to end if you have a bad day. I've really just gone with the mentality of just enjoying the race, enjoying the spectators, sometimes even engaging with the spectators as you're running, believe it or not. That's one of the nice things of a marathon. When you're running a 5K, you can't really talk to other runners. You really can't talk to the crowd. You're just out of breath in a 5K. In a marathon, you're not really taxing that system. So you could actually, and throughout the race, I was talking with other runners, and most of them would talk back. I mean, when you're running around the 3-hour range, you should have a fitness level where you're not out of breath during a marathon. So that is one of the nice aspects of it.
Right.
But I really don't get nervous. I mean, when I ran New York last year, and actually I did it the last 2 years, but I just used it as a training run this year. I don't recommend doing that. I just had a unique set of circumstances where I wanted to run in front of my home friends and family. So I used it as my long run.
How many celebrities did you see there?
Excuse me?
How many celebrities did you see at the New York one?
Unfortunately, I didn't see any. I actually, I guess I'll tell you the story. I originally made a video proposing that Caroline Wozniacki would run the race with me, and I sent her the video and through Twitter, and she actually responded, asking me to raise some money for a charity, and she'd consider it. Unfortunately, I did raise over $4,000 for a charity, Team for Kids, a great charity that does work in New York that gives kids the opportunity to participate in physical activities that normally wouldn't be available. It's a big initiative to get kids out playing rather than playing video games. Get them outside, participating. But I raised over $4,000, and I let her know that, and unfortunately she didn't respond. I don't know if her PR people advised her not to. Ironically, I think I passed her during the race, and I didn't even realize it. There's just so many people in the race.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, and she finished actually just like 8 minutes after me. So, if I just run a little bit slower, I might have finished with her. And apparently, Serena was at the finish line to greet her. That would have been pretty nifty. But I didn't see any celebrities in the race. But I know a bunch of them did do the New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're talking with our friend from down south. His name, we're just going to call him Mitch. Mitch the Runner.
You can call me Mitch. Yep.
Mitch the Runner. And we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back late on 101.5 The U.
It's going to be raining touchdowns.